The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone, here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen. We begin with that breaking news from overnight. A quadruple homicide investigation has been launched in Mojave. Deputies say they first received a call about a shooting. When they arrived, they found 4 victims with injuries from a, quote, violent assault. 3 of them died at the scene. The 4th person died later at a hospital. The sheriff's office did not clarify if they had gunshot wounds or something else. An investigation is ongoing, and as we mentioned, 17th Alex Fisher and photojournalist Juan Corona are on their way to the scene to gather more information, so we will bring you an update later on Sunrise. Other news from overnight, a homeless woman stabbed in southwest Bakersfield. The call came a little before 8 o'clock. Officers say a woman was stabbed by another homeless person underneath a freeway underpass. She was taken to a hospital to treat moderate injuries. No arrests have been made. All right, your time now is 5:03, and this morning water continues gushing into Lake Isabella as the hot temperatures from over the weekend melted a lot of that historic snowpack, and there's still more to come. Let's take a look at the Lake Isabella water levels this morning, as it's a little more than 60% capacity. According to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, this is a little higher than what the lake level was back in March after the floods in Kernville. Army Corps data shows that the last time we were at this level was back in 2019, but that was after all the snow had melted from the winter season. Of course, there's concern of flooding, and that's why water officials are releasing tons of water down the Kern River. This morning, there's so much water coming out of the dam, it could fill about 2 pools every second. This is a rate we have not seen in 40 years. And we just had the hottest weekend of the year so far, and while it may be tempting to cool off, local first responders are reminding everyone to stay out of the Kern River. The historic flow means danger is rising with the river levels. Reservoirs that store all that water upstream are expected to receive 3 times their capacity as the snow continues melting over the coming months. Your time's now 5:05. In your 17 Court Watch, a local pastor is facing felony charges for allegedly kissing and inappropriately touching a 12-year-old girl. Prosecutors say 68-year-old Stephen McCarthy, pastor of Maricopa Community Church, admitted to kissing the girl on the mouth while giving her a driving lesson. He told investigators the girl told him she loved him and pursued him. McCarthy has pleaded not guilty to lewd acts with a child under 14 and has a hearing scheduled this week. We reached out to McCarthy for comment and have not heard back. Back in court today, a former deputy who killed 2 prostitutes in the 1980s. Back in March, the retrial of former Kern County Sheriff's Deputy David Keith Rogers ended in a mistrial. Jurors deadlocked on whether Rogers should be resentenced to death or to life without parole. The jury hung 10-2 in favor of the death penalty. We're going to hear closing arguments in today's hearing. The DA's office could decide to retry Rogers again or to accept a life sentence. And we're learning more about a deadly head-on crash from last month. The driver, who swerved into the wrong lane, was reportedly going at least 100 miles per hour. That's according to court documents obtained by 17 News. The crash happened on Campus Park Drive. The driver in the car that was hit died at the scene. Witnesses say the other driver was driving recklessly, and a Snapchat video taken by one of the passengers showed the speedometer hit at least 100 miles per hour. No criminal charges have been filed so far. Making news around the world, Bakersfield Congressman and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy traveled to Israel over the weekend. His first trip abroad since becoming Speaker. McCarthy met with his Israeli counterpart yesterday. He's also expected to visit a Holocaust museum and deliver an address to Israel's parliament. McCarthy's visit comes just after Israel marked its 75th Independence Day. The Speaker celebrating that occasion and reaffirming relations between the U.S. and Israel.
When Israel decided to become a nation, within minutes America recognized it. For so many reasons, because just as America is more than a country, Israel is too. It's an idea about democracy and freedom fostered in the Middle East.
McCarthy becomes the second speaker in history to address the Knesset. Well, over the weekend, President Biden took on the role of comedian-in-chief, delivering remarks at the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner. There were plenty of laughs, and the president also struck a serious note. NBC's Bree Jackson has the story.
A night of laughs as President Biden took the stage at the White House Correspondents' Dinner Saturday, cracking jokes about the media, his political opponents, and himself.
I believe in the First Amendment, not just because my good friend Jimmy Madison wrote it.
The president using the spotlight to also stress the importance of protecting freedom of speech and Americans wrongfully detained in other countries. Journalist Evan Gershkovich remains held in Russia accused of espionage.
We're working every day to secure his release, looking at opportunities and tools to bring him home. We keep the faith.
This dinner comes as the 2024 presidential race ramps up. There's a growing list of Republican candidates eager to take over the White House.
I'm unapologetically pro-life, and like many in the pro-life movement, I believe that abortion is a form of murder.
And the American people trust Republicans more to handle the economy than the other side.
President Biden officially launched his re-election campaign last week. His allies stress the 80-year-old is the best person for the job.
So the numbers we're going to be talking about are the 12 million jobs created in the first 2 years that Biden's been president, the lowest unemployment in 50 years.
Both sides making their pitch to voters. And during Saturday's event, President Biden also honored WNBA star Brittany Griner, who was in attendance. As you may recall, this time last year, she was being wrongfully detained in Russia. Griner received a standing ovation from the crowd. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
And new details on the case that has people's attention both across Kern County and the country. The prosecution is expected to rest its case this month in the trial of Trezell and Jacqueline West. They've been charged in the deaths of their adopted children, Orrin and Orson. This week, the jury will hear from the case's most crucial witnesses, the West's 4 other children. One child, 10 years old at the time, told authorities he saw Orrin West die at the family's apartment in Bakersfield of September 2020, according to the prosecution. The West's 3 other children also told law enforcement Orrin and Orson had not been seen for weeks when the West reported them missing. Defense attorneys have argued authorities immediately focused on the Wests and failed to consider others, including members of the boys' biological family, while conducting their investigation. Closing arguments are expected to be given mid this month. We have an update this morning on the Bakersfield College professor who was terminated earlier this month. The Kern Community College District says Dr. Matthew Garrett was fired after disrupting ongoing activities at BC, adding they had no choice but to, quote, move forward with action. Garrett's attorney confirming he has appealed the decision. Last week, we brought you the story about a former Vaughn's courtesy clerk who was fired after he was assaulted on the job. And now the union representing Austin Sherrill says it's appealing his termination. United Food and Commercial Workers releasing a statement to 17 News regarding Sherrill's firing. It reads in part, our initial findings are that Mr. Sherrill's termination was unwarranted. Our union is, as always, focused on fair treatment of our members according to rules laid down in their union negotiated contracts. Sherrill has set up a GoFundMe to help him pay the bills when he gets back on his feet. We have a link to it on our website, kget.com. Well, we're all looking for ways to survive the heat this summer. Tinted car windows may be one way you try to protect yourself from the scorching summer sun, also offering privacy and some may even say style. But officials caution that darker windows are actually more dangerous than you think and can even get you pulled over. So what exactly is legal in California?
This truck right here, that's illegal. You know, I'm about to rip that film off.
Luis Ruiz has 19 years in the auto window tinting business and has owned and operated ultraviolet window tinting in Bakersfield for 2.
Window tint is very popular in Kern County because of the heat waves that we have in the summer. Window tint does help with UV and with heat rejection depending on the materials that you select.
Ruiz says this time of year, many residents are coming in looking for ways to stay cool in the coming heat. The topic even sparking a debate this week on Button Willow CHP's Facebook page. But Ruiz explains he has to be very careful to comply with strict state rules.
Anything darker than that one right there in your front windows, it'll get you pulled over.
Tinting front windows and a front windshield is not legal here in California.
Drivers can go darker on back windows, but anything over 30% tint on the front is not allowed. Bakersfield CHP Public Information Officer Tomas Martinez says violating that law will get you a ticket.
I think people don't realize how much of an obstruction it can be for the drivers that are actually driving with that tint. It results in crashes because they were unable to see the other vehicles.
Ruiz adds there are still ways to protect yourself from the sun with certain clear front windshield films.
Even though it's very light, very clear, it does stop the UV. It does give you heat control. With the ceramic material, you get up to 86% infrared rejection, which it makes a big difference.
Maddie Gannon, 17 News.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.